Okay.
Got him.
Okay. That's good.
This freezes it. It's frozen again. Oh, there it is.
Oh, no, it goes.
Um, this laptop ain't that old, so there shouldn't be any problems.
Yeah. So why you got like other TVs or anything else streaming off your router?
Yeah, let me turn it off.
Because I've been reading about because we got like four TVs that stream at the same time. So it's like that's one of the reasons why my side kind of lags sometime. So
Let me turn my Wi-Fi off on the phone real quick.
have you sold any tractors lately, Brian?
Um, no, it's been a couple months.
Yeah. No luck on that yet, or just kind of
Nah, I don't push it that hard. It just if somebody wants one, they call me. If they don't, I don't care.
yeah. If it happens, it happens. I guess, huh?
Yeah, I have enough other stuff to keep me busy. I don't care.
All right. Well, thanks for coming, guys. So, like I said a few weeks ago, I wanted to talk about something I think, at least for me personally, I've experienced a lot of. That's depression, stress, and anger. Um, I think they go hand in hand. Myself, they've often kind of fueled each other in a sense. What do you guys think? Do you think that they kind of react to one another, feed each other, that sort of thing?
Yeah, that's a clinical description of it. Yeah, stress causes depression. Depression causes stress. It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because I
then you're angry because you're stressed out, and you're stressed out because you're angry, and yeah, it just makes a vicious circle.
yeah,
Yeah, it's just terrible. It's terrible. You know.
yeah, and I think it plagues. I think a lot more people than people realize. Um, like for me, it started probably well, like Brian, you've been there from the beginning when my dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's, and it just for me, it just started. It didn't start right away, but it started to grow over the first few years. It was kind of subtle, but then it started to grow, and it manifested into so much. And me personally, depression has affected pretty much my whole life from childhood up until even now. I still struggle with it today, and I mean, I could probably talk for hours about all the different things it's affected. And I've tried to look back at my life and go, hey, you know what? This has kind of influenced a lot of my decisions. And it all stems from my dad. You know, it changed everything who I am. I think it had probably the most impact on my life than anything else. I mean, that's just my opinion. I mean, you guys have seen me over the years. You've seen me how I've changed, I'm sure.
Yeah,
For the better in the last 10 years, 12, 20 years, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's gotten better, but it's also, you know, it's enabled me to not follow through on a lot of things and kind of, I don't know, sit in a place where I didn't really feel comfortable, but it felt easier to do than to kind of push myself into doing something better with my life. Because really, when my dad got sick, I just said, you know what, I'm not going to be happy. You know, for some reason, just the way my brain is wired, I didn't want to follow a dream. I didn't want to follow any goals. I didn't want to follow a career. Um, it was something that you know I would say I actually had a lot of pity parties. I mean, I can admit it, and I don't know. I mean, what's depression had any kind of impact on your guys' life personally?
oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah, a lot actually.
yeah. I think it affects. It can creep into every single aspect of your life. Um,
Yeah.
it'll affect your relationships with everyone, your family, your friends, relationships. Like it creeps into everything. It affects how you do your job, uh, affects how you take care of yourself. Uh, just yeah, everything. And if you allow it to to root and spread, and uh, those things, it'll consume you completely. So the difference is, a lot of people, or it's a common ailment. Everybody deals with it at some point. Um, it just comes down to how you deal with it, or whether you can recognize it and be able to deal with it. A lot of people can't do that. They get stuck in it. They're consumed by it, and it ultimately runs them into the ground. Uh, Other people, they deal with it. They kind of go with the flow for a little while, and they figure it out and find a way to get out. Uh, some need help getting out. Some just figure it out, and some never do. So it's just, yeah, it's definitely real, and it has definite consequences.
Yeah, I just use medication for me. That's just what works for me at the moment. For
Yeah,
years
and
now.
that's the thing. I tried medication a long time ago, and it kind of more or less mellowed me out. It didn't give me a lot of highs or very lows. It just kind of just ran kind of even for me. And honestly, I didn't like it personally. Um, but maybe that was just my mindset is like, maybe I should feel bad, maybe I should feel sorry, or maybe I did it on purpose, Like you were saying, Brian, I was one of those ones that couldn't get out of it. For some, I don't know, I can't explain it completely because I'm not an expert on it, but I just, for some reason, it was easier to be depressed about life and myself than it was to try to push myself into doing something, And like I said, it all stemmed from my dad. My mind was, if my dad's sick, I'm not going to be happy. That was just how I was wired. As long as he's suffering, why should I go and be happy, get a career, have a family, that sort of thing? So, and every time I would feel, a little bit of joy or hope or something, I'd only have to go over and see my dad for an hour, and I'm back in that frame of mind. I was so pissed off and angry at the world, at life. And even for a while, I was like, I even begged God for a long time. And then finally, after my dad tried to remove himself from this world twice, I was like, you know what? Fuck God, and I just gave up on religion. That was kind of my big thing right there. I was like, and that made me even more angry. And that comes back to the whole angry thing. I would bounce between angry and depression all the damn time. And and I tried to bury it, tried to hide it, the only one good thing I can say that I'm happy about myself, that I never turned to drugs, never turned to alcohol, because there are so many people out there that turn to drugs and alcohol and all that other bad stuff. And that was the one fortunate thing. I think I was able to pat myself on the back and go, hey, I didn't resort to that stuff, but I guess I was torturing myself and kept torturing myself, and that's where I existed.
Yeah, I never turned to drugs, but I can't speak about the beer. you know,
Yeah,
history.
I never turned to the drugs. Yeah, I might have dabbled a little bit in alcohol. Um, but like medications did not help me at all. I tried several different versions, and none of them had the desired outcome. Some, there was a couple that I went through that uh, actually made it worse. Uh, it made me just downright dangerous. Uh, and there was one that just kind of turned me into a zombie. Like I wasn't happy, I wasn't sad, I wasn't angry, I wasn't anything. I had nothing. I was on autopilot.
Yeah.
It was miserable.
I feel like
Um,
that sometimes.
you know, I went through a stage when I was on that, kind of that autopilot one where I would do stupid shit just to feel something because I felt nothing. I was completely just numb to everything. And I made a lot of bad choices and did stupid things just because, it was almost like I'd rather feel pain than nothing at all. It was terrible. Um, so I had to get off of it and uh, just kind of figure out ways to deal with it.
How did you deal with it?
I don't know that it's anything I can really describe. I just kind of try to find ways to occupy my mind and try to direct my energy into something productive. Um, had varying degrees of success with it. Um, but it's something I don't know that it ever goes away, or at least not in my experience anyway. Maybe some people, but in my experience, it doesn't really go away. You just kind of figure out how to handle it.
Yeah.
To your point about the meds, it took until my 30s for me and my doctor to figure out which ones were the right balance and all that stuff. So, and then since then, but yeah, so I know how you feel. There were some times
Yeah,
there.
and then the meds, everybody's affected differently, but um, look around, look around all over the world, and even in a lot of the things that make the news, all the shootings and uh, criminal activity and all this stuff. Um, there's one really common thread in a lot of it, and it's depression medication, the SSRIs. They
Yeah.
do weird things to people's heads, and so if you're on the, your doctor says it's cool, whatever. Um, it's easy to get stuck in that. Well, this is all that it, this is all that is. This is what my life looks like. Um, I'm stuck taking whatever this particular medication is, and they don't realize that there's other options, or don't even maybe not even realize there's a problem. And so things start happening. They start lashing out, and and then you wind up with your face plastered all over the news for a couple of days.
Yeah, that was my thing. I never was outward with my like depression or anger or any of that stuff. I always like because I have the depression. I have low self esteem, so low self worth, all that stuff, and so I kind of internalized everything. So I punish myself. I'd do stuff to make myself feel worse. I don't know why. I don't know why my brain does that, but it was just it's crazy. And the meds, like I said, the meds didn't really do much for me. They just leveled me out. But I'm not a big believer in I don't like popping pills. It's bad enough I got to do it right now for the type 2 diabetes and the cholesterol and crap. But yeah, I never. And then the alcohol, I never turned to that because my uncle Jimmy, you guys know him, he was an alcoholic. That's how he That's how he dealt with all his stuff. And I seen that at a young age. I'm like, I'm not going to go down that road because I see what he did to him, and I'm like, no. So, but yeah, I internalized everything. I punished myself. I don't know if I ever told you this, but this was back probably when I was late teens, early 20s. I used to cut myself, my hands and stuff.
Hmm.
It was kind of goes back to that whole to feel something, you know. That was kind of the thing for me. It was cutting my hands and cutting my forearms and stuff to try to get that feeling, try to feel that, you know.
And what you're describing, that's not uncommon. That's a very, well established, I guess, psychological response. When you start getting in that depressive phase, you somehow rationalize, somewhere in your psyche, you rationalize that you're not worthy, you deserve to be punished, you deserve to be in pain, you deserve whatever, and so you find those ways to hurt yourself, you degrade yourself, your internal monologue tells you that you're worthless and nobody cares, and whatever, and it just perpetuates the cycle. But that is a well known, clinical thing. It's uh, probably the most common effect of depression.
Yeah.
So it's not like, you weren't unique in that respect. That's super common.
Yeah, my situation is not unique either. We're not. Yeah.
How's that been?
Oh, every one of my family's got it. So, maybe
Oh,
not my
really?
dad so much, but if he does, he hides it really well. But yeah, it's a genetic with my family, or at least my immediate family.
Now, have you always had it
Yeah,
ever since you were a kid, huh?
yeah, yeah,
Oh yeah, I remember you were on medication for ever when we were kids. I remember you being on meds when we were kids.
Yeah.
yeah. Start crying out of nowhere. This is before the meds. Just start crying out of nowhere. Like first it was therapy, then it was meds.
Do you have any idea of what was kind of the root cause? Like for me, it was my dad. It was that whole situation, and it for me it compounded when my mom and dad divorced. You know, when I was 17, 18, they decided to get a divorce. So I'm like, okay, well now I'm left with my dad, who's getting worse every day. My mom and my sister left, so I'm like, okay, well now I'm stuck with him, and it just continually got worse. You know, the Michelle, you guys remember her, the girl I lost my virginity to, she ended up cheating on me twice. Got married to some guy while she was just graduated MIT, or AIT. Sorry, not MIT. She's not that
Am I-
she's not that smart, but because she joined the National Guard and did all that stuff, so that just compounded it, where it made it worse. And then after that, it just kept going downhill because every time my dad, like I said, he tried to kill himself twice. That was, it took me back 10 steps. Every time I take a step, it'd take me back 10 steps. So I know that was kind of the root cause of it. But do you know what kind of facilitated that for you, Ben?
um, if it wasn't totally genetics, I'd say my biological dad leaving, even though I don't remember it, but I guess he came back once. I have a memory which may be made up in my head. And I was just talking to my mom about that actually, because he only came back once, and see, so I don't know if it's because they've told me the story and I created a memory, or if I actually do remember it. But and then my uncle dying in when I was 7. Now, my mom's brother, he was 29, so
Yeah.
that really set the stage for the 80s. then my grandpa the next year, and he was only 59. So
Yeah,
that's
my
then
yeah, I
then the divorce.
yeah, I lost my dad's dad, my papa, I called him, when I was 7. So that was like my first death experience. But you're 7 years old, you really don't understand that.
Oh, I
Um,
did.
oh, did you?
Yeah, yeah. Uh, yeah, my dad was, and the one I call my dad, Bert.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
Bert.
my sister's biological dad. Anyway, he's still an alcoholic. um, he was kind of an alcoholic back when we were living in Winchester Village, and made a lot of nights hard for my mom. So I didn't realize it at the time, but I know he was coming home late, and then they divorced, so that then we had to downsize to apartments from the mobile home, which you know just cramped all
Yeah,
together in a little. So that didn't help. And then of course the school bullying, that didn't help either.
yeah. I got actually bullied in 6th grade by, I don't want to say his name, but yeah, his first name's Richard. I'm not gonna say the last name, but
Dole.
no, no.
Yeah, let's
Well,
not put anybody out on Front Street like that.
yeah. Well, I can blur out the name. Um, but yeah, he picked on me in 6th grade. I mean, I got to the point where I was faking being sick to come into school. That's how like scared I was to come to school.
I had one of
He
those
picked
guys.
he picked on me hard. I was like, man, this sucks. The funny thing is, I seen him in my 20s when I was actually working at the grocery store where we worked at, Ben.
Yeah.
He came in as a driver, as a vendor, and I was bigger than him, and I was just kind of looking at him going, "Man, did you really? You're the one." I just thinking in my mind, I'm like, "You're the one that bullied me in 6th grade." Now I'm looking down at you, and I'm not that tall, so I was like, "Man, you're nothing." But yeah, I know what that bullying feels like. It sucks.
Yeah, it kind of stopped after I started taking taekwondo, and just something, as my dad put it, just something triggered in my body, made my shoulders more broad or something, and it just kind of stopped. Although the verbal bullying kept into the all the way into work. Not so much now because I'm older and a boss, but you know.
Oh, you got bullied at work?
Oh yeah, when I was at yeah, you were there.
No.
Oh wait, maybe you'd left already. It was those guys. Just the few. I'm like you say, you don't want to put their names on blast. Well, one of them's dead, so um,
Yeah.
yeah, they're just assholes. I probably could have handled it better.
Yeah, I just ran away. I didn't want to deal with it. I don't think you were ever bullied, were you, Brian?
Uh, Not really. Not enough. Not enough to matter.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I think there was when I was in like elementary. There was a kid that lived across the street from me that like yeah, it was a weird dynamic because like he and I would like play together sometimes, but his older brother was kind of a dick, and so whenever this kid was around his brother, he'd have to act up a little bit. So then he'd try to do something, and then God, I don't know. Like one day, God, I barely even remember. It was so long ago, but he like said something about he was going to kick my ass at the bus stop or something. Like the next day going to school, and I said something to my brother about it, and so my brother walked me down to the bus stop. But like that whole night before, like we were in the garage, and he was like trying to show me how to fight. And it was like, man, I wasn't gonna fight this kid. But um, But yeah, so my brother, he walked me to the bus stop, and I think just the show of force, I guess, kind of put an end to it. Like nothing was said, nothing was done. Just the fact that he was there kind of put an end to it. Um, and then yeah, it didn't really happen much. Um, and then oh man, there might have been a couple of incidents, but it wasn't anything like regular. Like I didn't have like a bully following me around. It just a couple of isolated things here and there that I'd get into a fight in the playground or something or whatever. Like I think even in high school there was some dude that took a shot at me in gym class, and
He's dead.
yeah, he's dead.
He's dead a long time. Chris Boswell.
Yeah.
I remember that shit.
He was
Yeah, he took a shot at me in gym class in high school, and yeah, it wasn't even worth being worried about.
Yeah, I
And
remember.
then there was another kid in high school that I didn't even know this fucker, but he was running around telling people that he fought me, beat my ass, and whatever. And I didn't even find out about it until like some girls I was messing with came and caught me between classes, and they're like looking at my face, and I'm like, "The hell are you looking at?" I'm like, "Oh, so and so said he beat your ass earlier today." I'm like, "Where the fuck was I?" Because it didn't happen to me. He must have me confused because it wasn't me.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, that going back to that bullying at work. Remember when I first got in the meat department? This is in my late 30s, and that guy, the old guy,
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I
he got
remember now.
bad.
You told me. Yeah.
Where I'm at now, you can't do that. So at all, you get fired. So at the independent, it was, well, he's fast. Anyway, yeah, it didn't. I mean, nothing physical happened. It was just like annoying as hell.
Yeah, I'm glad that none of us were that kind of people. I mean, we all grew up together, and none of us were ever like that.
What,
So
bullies?
yeah, none of us were.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
it wasn't worth it. I had better shit to do with my time.
Yeah, I know for sure. Plus, it was just yeah, it's better. It's being an asshole is just not the thing. Never has been.
Nah, I
Plus,
like
we were all taught better than
I
that
mean, I don't
anyway.
know. I might have been accused of being an asshole once or twice, but I just had better shit to do with my time. I didn't need to go chase people down to make their lives miserable. I had better shit to do.
Yeah,
And if
Yeah.
somebody wanted to call me an asshole, I wore it like a badge. I didn't care.
that's true. I've been called that a
You
few
got me.
times.
In fact, I think I might even still have the one that Ben made for me.
That's funny. So for me, how has depression ever affected your health? I know it has for me.
It, it's hard to say because I take a vitamin every day, so I don't get sick a lot. So,
Eh, eh, Well, maybe like for like I'll just talk about my health and depression and stuff. So depression, I don't take care of myself. That's probably why I've got type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol. I I mean, you guys know, I mean, I ran track with you, Brian. We ran track
Mm-hmm.
for years. I played soccer through basically all my childhood. So I was super healthy. Never smoked, never drank, but after high school and we got into the working world, I ate like crap. never took care of myself in any sort of way. Um, and now, I'm here 52 years old. Now I've got the type 2 diabetes. I've got the, I don't like, I haven't talked much about it, but I got low testosterone. I mean, like down in almost the double digits. I'm like low 100s. But I'm also reading about how um, the diabetes can contribute to that. But also, I'm a truck driver. I've been a truck driver almost 20 years. So I sit all day and I eat truck stop food and I drink soda and I'm still kind of stuck in that cycle. I'm getting better, but I'm still stuck in that cycle. And as part of that, I don't give a shit about myself. I never have. And so I'll eat what I do and I won't. Nikki gets on my case all the time about trying to eat healthier, drink healthier, don't drink so much crap. And I mean, I'm getting better, but the last 35 years, I didn't care. And now I'm paying the price for it.
Yeah, that's what we call paying the man. You
I'm
fuck
right
around
there
and
with
find
you.
out. Yeah, that's kind of that's where it is. You make them bad choices and you get away with it for a while. Eventually, you got to pay the man.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
true.
the difference between you and me, because I eat the same, and I don't drink the soda so much anymore, but definitely cut back on the beer. Um, but the eating habit is pretty bad. But I'm also on my feet 8 hours a day,
Yeah.
and I was exercising for 10 years religiously up until COVID hit, and then when everything shut down, and then I never got back into it.
What about you, Brian?
I mean, I go in cycles. I'll get on a kick for a little while where I think, all right, yeah, I'm going to take better care of myself and I'll eat better and whatever. Then the reality is I like burgers. I like pizza. I like all that shitty food.
Yeah.
Um, I don't drink a ton of soda, but unfortunately, caffeine is my blood type. So a lot of coffee, a lot of energy drinks, Red Bulls, and whatnot. Um, so yeah, I'm sure eventually that's probably gonna catch up, and I'm gonna have to pay that bill. But for now, I mean, my blood pressure is good. My cholesterol is a little on the high. It's still within like an okay range, but it's definitely a little on the high side. So my doctor kind of busts on me about that every once in a while. Um, but as far as like, I mean, I just had some blood work done here. I don't know, a month or two ago, and my chart was pretty much almost in the middle all the way down. So
Me
I don't know.
too.
I'm doing something right. I don't know. But I still, I eat what I want. I don't think about it. If I want to go and get a big greasy bacon fast food burger, I do. If I want to go to Taco Bell and power down a bunch of crappy burritos, I do that too. I don't care. Um,
The key is to have a salad once in a while, and I think the coffee helps us both out because I drink a ton of coffee.
yeah, I mean, I'll drink a couple. Well, I call them cups, but they're not. Um, like the big like travel mug size cups. I'll drink like two of those a day, and then I might have I might have a Monster or a Red Bull or something else later on in the day, and then I might have a soda with lunch. But then the rest of the day I'm drinking water. Like when I'm at work, I have my water bottle that I carry around with me. Just more out of convenience than anything, because I can't be running around going and buying sodas or energy drinks or whatever. So I have my water bottle, um, and then like at night when I get home, I just keep my bottle full and I just sit here and drink my water. So maybe that helps. Maybe it doesn't.
Probably
I
does.
just drink it because I'm thirsty.
Yeah.
But I cut way back on alcohol. I mean, it's pretty rare that I drink anymore, and if I do, maybe once or twice a month we'll go out, and I might have one, maybe two at most, and that's it. I don't drink at home. I just I pretty much kind of gave up on the alcohol. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I just don't sweat it. I eat what I want. I do what I want.
Well, as my doctor said, life is meant to be lived.
Yeah, you can be the healthiest, eat nothing but grass and tofu, and you still gonna die.
My
So
my great uncle Jim, healthy as an ox, 82, boom, heart attack, gone.
Yeah, there's. I mean,
yeah,
there.
I mean, there's a long list of people that well-known people that lived well into their advanced years and ate garbage and smoked cigars and drink bourbon like water and all this stuff and lived well into triple digits, and others that eat nothing but grass and
Work out every day. They're
yeah, they live in the gym and eat grass and croak at real early age. So I think you just never know. There's genetics involved, or I don't know. There's something there, but yeah, like Ben was saying, life is meant to be lived. What's the point of making yourself miserable, or denying yourself the things you like? And you're gonna die anyway.
Yeah, to a point. I mean, don't.
Well, yeah, I mean, not to excess. Not you can't just sit down and plow
do a
through the
line of grow
entire.
and do all that stuff. Yeah.
You can't sit down and plow through the entire junk food menu in one sitting. That ain't gonna work for you. You start pushing 3, 4, 5, whatever 100 pounds, and you're just plowing through that kind of food, and not no nutritional value, just all fat and grease and carbs and whatever else. Yeah, good luck.
Marlon Brando, but he still made it to 80.
Yeah, I told my doctor, I'm like, yeah, I'm unfortunately on a truck driver diet, so I eat a lot of truck stop food, which is not good for you at all. I've been starting to take my lunches more to work, but I'm drinking probably 4 or 5 sodas a day, but it's the Coke Zeros, the Pepsi Zeros. I got out of the whole, and I can feel a change. It's definitely different, and my blood sugar would spike up to like 400, my blood sugar, but now with the Coke Zeros and the Pepsi Zeros, it's more in the 200s. I still got to get it into the hundreds, but
Yeah, the
it's
bad thing about all those zeros and whatever. Okay, so they don't have sugar, but they got all that other artificial shit in there. So you're still consuming some kind of a chemical
yeah,
sweetener, and it may not have the same immediate effect on your blood sugar and all that, but it's still doing something.
Oh yeah.
And is one better than the other? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe 5% better, but it's still pretty bad still.
Yeah, I've never heard of anyone dying from drinking coffee.
I could never get into coffee.
Mm.
I tried it a few times, and I'm just like, I didn't like the taste. I was like, no, that's not for me.
Oh man, you're wrong. That's like sunshine in a cup.
Yep. They have new flavors now, all sorts of flavors. You might.
Oh yeah, my wife would agree with you. She's a coffee snob, so.
For me, that's what keeps people from getting hurt.
Yeah.
It keeps you level headed and calm.
It keeps me from ripping someone's face off. I'm not pleasant to be around if I have not had my coffee in the morning.
Yep, same here.
That's funny. Well, that happens to a lot of people, though. They have to have their coffee in the morning to kind of set the tone for the day.
Yeah, I definitely fall into that category.
Me too.
If it's not there in the morning, my day is fucked, and I'm going to take everybody with me.
So, I was going to ask you guys, be honest too. I mean, you guys know me all for a very, very long time. Have you seen the differences in me over the years? Because like I said, I always tried to hide it.
No.
Yeah.
I've seen every single change, and no, you weren't hiding shit.
Yeah, I'm not very good at it, apparently.
No. Maybe some people were fooled by it. I wasn't. Never was.
Yeah, because I guess I was more worried about hiding it from other people rather than like you guys, because you guys are family. So it was like you guys, like I said, you've been there since the beginning, so you've seen everything.
I've seen you get better and better and better over the years. Just whether you did.
The time it changed was when my dad passed. I think that was no, it didn't like 100% go away, but after he passed, I think 75-80% of that went away. The depression, the anger, but it changed. It also changed too because then I felt guilt and regret because I think I was telling my aunt the other day. Every time I went over to see my dad, I would try to enjoy being around him because I miss being around him, but it was hard for me to go over there because every time I left for a day or two, I would feel absolutely like pissed off and depressed and sad, and I wanted to scream and yell and destroy things, and so I had that regret of that I should have spent more time with him. I go over there maybe a couple times a month rather than, and then I was angry at myself for not going over there because I see other people who have sick parents and they're there all the time. They're going out of their way to try to help them, to be there for them. And then I'm sitting here going, why aren't you manning up and going over there more often? Yeah, it's going to piss you off and put you in a bad space, but you have to be there for them. And I just didn't have, I can honestly say I didn't have that strength to push myself in that direction. And then, like I said, now he's gone. Now I'm angry at myself for not doing more than I should have.
Yeah, and that's something that you're gonna live with that, and it's hard because you gotta make that choice of it's gonna suck to see them. It's either gonna piss you off or it's gonna hurt or something. There's gonna be some feelings there, but you gotta weigh that out against how you're gonna feel if the last time you saw them was the last time you saw them? You know, in fact, we just had this conversation the other day. She had to go back. She decided she wanted to go back and see her dad because he's not doing good, and but so she was like, oh, he gets on my nerves, and I don't want to see him like that, and whatever. So I told her, do you would you rather see him now while he's still mobile and he can still do things and all that, or do you want the last time you see him to be in a box? And so, that decision was made. So now I'm, living by myself for a couple weeks while she goes home to see her dad.
You're on vacation.
I don't know. I'm about to be Lord of the Flies up in here because I ain't used to having to do shit by myself.
Well, yeah, there's that.
Told her I'm gonna be feral by the time she gets home. Lord of the Flies up in here.
Yeah, and I know I have to live with it, and it's not easy. I mean, it, like I said, it goes back to that anger at the world, at life for doing this to him. And then now he's gone, I'm more at peace, but I'm more angry at myself for not being over there more because I miss him. I miss him every day. I mean, you lost your dad too, Brian. I mean, it's
I lost both my parents, and
yeah, that's right.
yeah, I definitely miss them. And the thing that I can take comfort in, or whatever, is that I did make the effort to see them. Even in the decline, especially my mom. I at least made the effort to see her, so that that final image burned into my head is not looking down at them in a box.
Yeah.
I have other kind of other memories that I can lean back on, and I still have that should I have done more? Should I have been there more? But I can't take that back, and I can't make it any better. But I did what I could. I had to deal with the distance, and there was things, there's factors, work and whatever. But at least I did what I could, and I tried my best to make sure that, if nothing else, their final, their last bit of time, they didn't have to worry about anything. Because I took over all the finances. I took over all of their stuff so that they wouldn't have to worry about it. Because they probably wouldn't have remembered it anyway. So I tried to remove that that problem from their life, and I tried to remove any other problems from their life. And I had to do some bad things, or some hard things. I won't say bad things, but I had to do some hard things. I had to make some tough choices, and but I did it for the right reasons. So
Yeah, I try to remember the good stuff with my dad, and there's a lot of stuff that I do remember, but there's a lot of stuff that I can't get out of my mind, and it sucks. I this is hard to talk about, but I remember when my dad, a few months before he passed, he was in the hospital. He couldn't really talk, and um, we're all there. This is the day before my uncle found out he had pancreatic cancer. That's another. August of 2017 was the worst month of my life, but I remember my dad sitting on the hospital bed, and he's just looking at me, and they have to change him. he can't change himself, so the nurses had to come in there and physically change his.
Mm-hmm.
And I could just see that look in his eyes, and he was tearing up, and it's just that shit's like ingrained in my brain, because I know he was I don't maybe embarrassed, ashamed, I don't know that people are having to do this for him, because like as a man, you don't want somebody to have to change your diaper,
Well,
And I
absolutely,
could just
and that's that's gonna be tough for anybody. Um, for sure, that's not that ain't the image you want burned into your head.
and then when he's on hospice, that whole few weeks that he was on hospice and the feeding tube, and I'm not gonna say the last few days of his life were pretty bad, you know, and that's the part that pisses me off. It's like and that's where it comes back to the whole being, I just gave up on the whole religion God thing, because it's like nobody deserves that. I don't give a shit who you are, what he went through, basically his entire life, but more or less those last few days, it was just like, no, and it's your dad, and that's the hardest thing to deal with. And then after he passes, yeah, I'm at peace, and I don't have the anger. And that's where my life did really change, is that once he passed, I was like, I'm not so angry anymore. I'm not so bitter. And that's another thing. I've always had a chip on my shoulder. You guys know that. I've always been kind of just, I didn't care, but I started to finally care after he passed. It's like, he's at peace. So now I can start looking at life differently. And I did. And that's, not long after that was when I met Nikki, and things started to change. I had a good job finally, because before I didn't really care. Through my 20s and 30s and 40s, I didn't really look at beyond the next week. I was like, as long as I make my bills that week, I don't care. If I die next week, I didn't give a shit. I had no goals, no dreams, no ambitions. I more or less gave up. I was just kind of existing, and that sucks, because I look back and I'm like 52 now, and I'm like, man, I wasted so much shit. Wasted so much time being being fucking angry at the world. It sucked.
Yeah, that's rough. I know, and of course, I was there for it, and I know, how you
Yeah.
feel.
Yeah, and and that's one of the reasons why I started this podcast. The whole thing is like, you know what? I'm gonna change something in my life. I want to try to do something different. Talk about my life to maybe show people that, hey, you know what? Don't waste your life being, you know, angry and depressed at stuff that you can't change. Because I know my logical brain knows that I couldn't cure my dad's disease, but I still. Anyways, you guys talk for a minute.
I choose to remember I wasn't there. I mean, I was around. Um, but I didn't see your dad in hospice. But I knew that, obviously knew him a long time. I choose to remember the good times. That's me, the at your house, always watching movies, and you know, he makes some quirky comments. Is that a
No,
fair
yeah,
thing? Okay. And then you think about it, it's like that was actually really smart and funny. you know, that's
yeah,
the kind of
Yeah,
that's
I'm the same way. I choose to remember the better times. Um, so I saw the decline, and I was there for it. Um, and I remember how hopeful he was when he had that surgery that was supposed to help fix it, and it looked like it was going to go good for a while, and then then it came back with friends.
yeah,
It's that was definitely, that was hard to watch. But yeah, I don't really remember a lot of the end, um, just because I kind of don't need to remember that. I remember I remember the racetrack down in the basement, and
Yeah.
um, the car stuff, and all the models, and just all the like all the fun stuff that we did with him. Um, and some of the knowledge that he dropped on us. Um, might not have been often, but usually if he dropped some knowledge on us, it was worth hanging on to. Um, and like Ben said, he had kind of a quirky way of putting things and stuff like that. But it was cool, and he had an influence on all of us.
Right.
And so that's those are the memories that I have of him. Um, Even though I know how nasty it got at the end, to me that's just not worth hanging on to. Um,
No, the funny, it's not funny, but I remember after my dad passed, Randy, of all people, he wrote in the online thing you can sign, like his guest book and stuff, and kind of share a
uh,
memory. And it was the craziest thing because, especially what happened to Randy. Um, he said in there, he said, "I hope I have as much influence on others as you did on me."
I
Telling
remember
my
that.
dad had on him, and I was just
oh
like,
yeah.
that really hit me because I'm like, and then it turned out Randy is the same way. He had so much influence and good things onto people. All the people that loved him and all the things that he did without any kind of recognition and it was like it was crazy when he said that. And then when Randy passed, it was just like, you know, and that was, we all hit us all hard. That came out of left field. So, but yeah, yeah, I'm glad you guys remember him that way too. I mean, I try to remember, but I seen a lot of the other stuff that nobody saw. In my 20s, there was for a long, long, long time, he would wake up in the middle of the night screaming, and I'd be in there, and he'd be begging to die. He wanted to die. That was his first attempt at trying to take his own life. I think it was more of a scream for help because he went into the garage and he sat in his Camaro, which is the Camaro sitting out in
Mm-hmm.
my garage right now, and me, Eric, and my sister were there, and we heard the car running for a while. So we went out there, and he was sitting in his car, and he was ready to go. He was like, I'm done with this world and all this stuff." We finally talked him out of it, and not long after that, I came home from work one day, and he's gone. I didn't think anything of it, and then I noticed my Mini 14 was gone. And a couple hours later, he came back and he told me that he drove out to Fort Lewis, out in the woods out there, and he was going to shoot himself. And I was just like, you know, that would have been a call that would have been hard to take.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, and it's still. I mean, obviously, you guys can see it hits deep. I mean, he's been gone almost 10 years now, and it's still. That's one of the very few things that actually can get me emotional like that. It's even watching TV, watching a damn death scene, losing. And like I said, 2017, August of 2017 was one of the worst months of my life. In the first week, I found out a friend of mine hung herself. I was like, just out of the blue. I thought she was happy, and I talked to her husband all the time. That happened, and then a week after that, Jimmy passes from pancreatic cancer. And then the following week, my dad, who is his younger brother, passed after that. And it was like, you know, having two people in my family on my dad's side pass within a week with each other was just, it was insane.
Yeah, that's about how my 2020 went.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
You
right.
both got kicked in one ball, then kicked in the next one right after that.
Yeah,
Yeah, 2020 the hits just kept on coming because I mean
that's right. Yeah.
my brother went, and then a couple days later my mom went. We had the funeral on my birthday. Then a few months later my sister went.
Yeah, that was crazy.
So that yeah, that was a messed up year. On top of all the other dumb shit that was going on, that was a messed up year. But it was what was crazy was it was except for my sister, that one came out of left field. I wasn't ready for that one. But what was crazy was the timing because my dad went in it was what July of 18, I think it was. Um, but so my brother went, and then I was like 4 or 5 days later, my mom went, but my mom went on my dad's birthday.
Oh, that's crazy.
And and then my mom's birthday would have been just was just a couple days before mine. So then we had the funeral on my birthday just because that's the way the timing went. But because of my parents' religious beliefs, it it kind of lined up as is just almost kind of prophetic, and even some poetry to it, that uh, that my dad he went first, and kind of prepared the spot, so to say, so to think, and was able to free my mom from her prison uh, on his birthday and call her home. And so it was just it was kind of interesting, if you kind of put a religious aspect to it, and a belief in the afterlife and all that. There was a certain poetry to it, and even though it was hard when my dad went, especially because I was the one that had to make the decision to let him go. I had to tell the doctors to pull the plug.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was being kept alive on a machine, and he wasn't coming back from it. And so basically, with my siblings, we kind of put it to a vote, and we agreed that he would not want to live like that, or he would not want to be kept alive on a machine.
Yeah.
But nobody else was able to make the decision. So it kind of fell on my shoulders to walk into the doctor's office and tell him, let him go. And that was tough. That stuck with me. That hit me a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how that felt, because I couldn't imagine making that decision.
It was hard, but I knew that it had to be done. And I did it with the right intentions and all that, and I was in the moment. I was okay with the decision. But what was really what just hit me like a punch of the gut, though, was when they came in and prepared to take him down to the morgue. It was actually it was pretty cool because they had me leave the room, and they brought in a like a temporary casket, I guess, and they put him in there, sealed it up, but then they draped a flag over it, and all the doctors and nurses lined up down the hallway.
I remember that.
And I walked with him down to the morgue. So it was cool. They did it, with honor and taste and, all those kinds of things. But that was where I got emotional. That it was really, as cool as it was, it was like just a kick in the gut.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not religious, but there is a part of me when my uncle and my dad passed, I was thinking, and maybe it's just to comfort myself, that my uncle passed because he's the older brother. He passed first so that he could be there when my dad passed, and kind of it's, like you said, it's that kind of, it's a nice thought, because I hear more stories about my dad and my uncle being best friends. I mean, they looked out for each other. They were like thick as thieves. They did everything together. So, for my Uncle Jimmy to pass, and then a week later my dad passed, his little brother, it was kind of like, maybe that was meant to be.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way I looked at it. I'm not religious either, but my parents were, and they were pretty staunch in their faith. Yeah. And so it's just it aligns with their faith if looking at it from a kind of an objective viewpoint. That was it was the kind of thing that they believed in for the afterlife. And so the fact that my dad went first and he needed some time to establish the afterlife, and then was able to kind of bring his one true love home, free her from her condition, and plus the fact that of course we know how troubled my brother was, that he was able to kind of take him too, free him from his problems. And so of course we had my brother cremated, but I took the ashes, or not all of it because they wouldn't let me, but I was able to take some of his ashes, and I hid them in the casket for my mom.
Oh, nice.
So, and my parents' plot was a double deep. So instead of side by side, we buried my mom on top of my dad.
Oh, nice.
So in effect, all three of them were buried in the same spot. So it kind of allowed them, their afterlife, I guess.
Yeah.
And then with my sister, that was a whole nother thing, but I believe we took some of her ashes and kind of was able to kind of bore a little hole in the ground, just like, just with our fingers or whatever, to kind of bore a little hole into the grass. and sprinkle a little bit of that in the same plot. Uh, so kind of kept the family together spiritually,
Yeah.
Because I believe that's what my parents would have wanted because they were so focused on family first kind of things. So I think they would have wanted that type of thing to happen.
Yeah, my uncle was cremated. My dad was just buried, and my three cousins got part of his ashes, but the rest of them went into my dad's casket. So the brothers were buried together. So
Yeah, with my brother, like I said, I just took a little like a little jar, like a little pill bottle size jar, and put some of his ashes in there and kind of stuck it in between the lining of the casket with my mom. Um, and then the rest of his ashes, my other brother uh, took them on the back of his Harley and found a stretch of road that I guess he liked to ride on or something,
that's
and
cool.
and then reach back and cut the bag open and scattered his ashes from his Harley. Uh,
That's cool.
yeah, so I think that I think he would have appreciated that. Um, so
Yeah,
yeah,
that's pretty cool.
I don't really get into all the spiritual and religious stuff, but I'm objective enough to find the comparisons and the kind of the comfort in it, I guess.
Well,
Yeah, no, I agree.
well, me and Jessica and Jen and Dylan and Austin, we spread a bunch of ashes on a casino table, a pai gow table.
Well, that's why they spread Randy's ashes in Vegas.
Yeah.
That was his big
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, that was his place, and he definitely would have appreciated that. So
Yeah,
I think it was either the Flamingo or the Paris, but I can't remember. I was drunk.
yeah. I don't know which one it was, but yeah, I remember when they took him there and they distributed his ashes, which is fitting for him.
We were all sitting at the same table, so playing. Yeah, I remember when she's like, "Now, now, now." You're not supposed to do that. you know.
yeah, I'm sure that's frowned upon.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm sure he's not the first one to do it.
Nope.
No, not the first, not the last.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's going back to that whole, for me, I'm still wrestle a lot with my dad. I'm sure you do too, Brian. For me, it's like, I mean, when we were kids, when we got a muscle car, we would have had that thing running in a week and out driving, running around, right?
Yeah,
I've had my dad's car for what 7 years, 8 years, and I haven't touched it. And I mean, part of it's a little bit financial, but there's a lot of things I could do that don't take any money. But I've only sat in that thing like 3 times since I've had it in the last 8 years, and it's hard to let go. It's hard to because that's a reminder every day I walk out that garage, I see that car, and it's hard. It's still hard to stay. I mean, I'm dealing with it a little bit better. I'm trying to get focused on other things, and like I said, one of the reasons I talked about this podcast is maybe this is helping other people. Ideally, that's what I want, but at the same time, I'm hoping it kind of gives me a little bit of closure of sense, maybe a little bit of peace. Um, because it's hard for me. I don't know about you, Brian, but it's hard for me to look at that car and not see my dad, not see him sitting in the driver's seat.
Yeah, you know, have you considered that maybe letting go is what you need to do? Get rid of that car.
I've thought about it, but at the same time, it's really the only thing I have left of his.
And
You know,
I
and
get that. I get it. I totally do. And I'm not saying one way or the other you should or
oh no,
shouldn't.
no,
I'm just
no,
throwing
yeah,
it
yeah.
out there as a just throwing it out there that you know maybe hanging on to it is contributing to the problem.
And you might be right. I don't know. Um, and I have thought about it here and there. I'm like, because it is a reminder, but at the same time, there's a big, strong part of me that's like, my dad's dream was to make that car whole again, and he never got a chance because of his disease. Now it's my
Right. And if
responsibility.
we're
Now,
the thing is, if we're being real, you're not going to finish it either.
well, I hope I do. At least get it running.
Hope in one hand, shit in the other. You
Yeah,
ain't
I
going to
know,
finish
I
that
know.
car.
If I can
We
get
know this.
if I can
And
get over,
I'm not telling you, I'm not telling you to be mean or anything, but I
oh
mean,
no, no, I
let's be
know.
real. Let's be real. You're not going to finish that car. So just spitballing here, but what about reaching out to one of the local like Camaro, classic Camaro clubs? Find someone who will give that car the honor that it deserves, that will finish it and give that car the honor it deserves.
I
Unburden yourself from it and let that car live again.
I may get to that point. I'm not there yet. I think
Because
I think I would hate myself more if I got rid of it. I might be able to let go of it, but there's going to be a big, huge part of me that's going to be like, and that's another thing. I let him down again. I couldn't cure his disease, even though logically I knew I can't.
no, but there's another way to look at it though. If you look at it from the perspective of that car will become a showpiece, it will, it'll live on in parades and shows and whatever by someone who has the resources and the knowledge and all of that to get that car living again. Because, we know how much your dad loved his car shows.
Yeah.
He loved his car shows. He loved his Camaro clubs. He loved those things. And I think that might be a good way to honor his memory, is to put that car where he would want it to be. He, I don't think he'd want that thing just collecting dust in your garage.
True.
And I think if you approach it from the right angle of, you get in with one of these car clubs, meet the dude that is gonna take that on, treat it with the love and the respect that it deserves, and get that thing running and looking pretty again. You could rationalize that as honoring your dad, not failing him.
And then you get a
And
picture.
it also then it's no longer sitting there as just a tore up Hulk taking up space in your garage, serving as a constant reminder of anything. Whereas you put it in the hands of somebody that can do it, that will do it, and you'll see that thing again at a show, and you'll be able to kind of feel some pride in that that you gave that car a new life. I think you've got to set your mind right for it though, and that's going to be the key. Is convince yourself that it's the right thing to do to to honor his memory, and I think if you can make yourself do that, I think it will go a long way towards helping you mentally deal with it, because it just, like I said, it takes away that that negative memory and turns it into something positive.
Yeah, you might be right. I just know I'm not there yet. But I
The
may
longer
be
you
there.
wait, the harder it's going to be to do.
I know, but I'm not quite there yet. I don't. I don't know. I'm still wrestling with a lot of things, and I think that doing that, while it may get me to that point, at the same time, it may also put me back a few times too. I don't know what it would do to me. That's the thing.
Yeah. But I think you would be able to exert some level of control over it, though. And that's kind of the point that I'm getting at, is you do it on your own terms, with the intentions of honoring that car, honoring his memory, and just accepting that the work will be done by someone who will appreciate it, who has the resources to do it, and is willing to take that time to do it, because you don't see those things sitting around in junkyards anymore. They're
No, yeah,
somebody is going to want that car and is going to give it the proper respect. And I think that if you come at it with the right mindset, I think you come out a winner on that one.
Oh man, my dad has 17 cars. I'm not kidding.
no, I remember you saying that, and you might be right, Brian. I may get to that point, and I might be working toward that. I don't know. We'll see. But no, it's definitely something I'm going to think about. It's trying to get my mind in that right space to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's something you've got to do, and obviously a choice you got to make. But I think there could be a positive outcome from that, and really, if you look at it from another perspective, you kind of win twice with it, because you get the financial benefit of it off the bat, and then you also get the that satisfaction of seeing it be given a new life. And there's you can really break that down into a lot of positivity, instead of how you see it now as a symbol of failure, or things left undone, left unsaid. The kind of remove that cancer. Right now it's a sore spot, and it's a festering wound.
No,
And
I agree.
it's at some point you've got to decide to heal, because you're not going to heal if you don't want to. You've got to make that conscious decision to heal, and let those old wounds go.
No, you're right. That's definitely something I'm trying to do. Especially over the last few years, I've tried to make kind of steps in that direction, because like I said earlier, I hold a lot of regret for things that I should have done the last 30 years. Now I'm trying to do stuff because, like I said, I never chased a career. I finally did get one in trucking. I never pursued any like hobbies or interests or goals, or I had no dreams. Now I've got this podcast. I got the other podcast. I got about 20 different books I'm in the process of writing. Um, I got the pet rescue that I would love to start someday. So there's stuff that's actually driving me to do stuff to make my life better, to, like you said, try to heal and try to make something more positive going in my life, and rather than focusing on all the negative and all that crap. So I've definitely made a lot of progress in the last few years. And I mean, I think,
And you have.
and I feel better about myself. I feel stronger about myself. I'm still not there yet. It is a struggle every day. It's a fight every day, because I've been that way for so long. My default mode is to go into that. If something bad happens, if I see something sad, if something doesn't go my way, my default is to go back to that person that I've been for the last 30 years,
And that's common. That's the way that program works.
Yeah, I'm tired. That's the thing. I'm tired of being like that. And you know, and over the years, like I said, I tried the drugs, that didn't work. I tried counseling more than a few times, and that just, I don't know. I get more out of just talking to you guys than talking to a shrink, because I don't know. For me, it's like the shrinks and stuff are just like they're there to listen to you. The last one I went to for what, almost a year. All they ever wanted me to do is do little tests. Write this down when you're 10 years old. Do this when you're 20 years old. It's like, and I did it. I'm like, I don't feel any different. Just talking to you guys over the last few times, it's like I feel a little more confident in who I am. I feel a little bit more lighter, I guess, in a sense, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like I can open up more to you guys than I can to a shrink, because you guys are my family to me. So I know I don't have to worry about being judged or looked at differently because you guys are family. So, and a shrink is like, I don't know. I'm not taking anything away from them, because I know they do a lot of good work for a lot of different people. But for me, it just didn't work.
To each their own.
Either of you guys went to see some specialist?
When I was a kid,
Yeah.
it helped.
Did it? That's good though.
When I was a kid.
No, nope, I haven't been to anybody.
No, I haven't. Not as an adult.
That is changing though. I did schedule an appointment here to go. I'm gonna go feel it out and see if there's room to make some progress on some things that I have unresolved.
Yeah.
So to be determined.
I'm on the waiting list right now at the tribe for
Well, that's good.
their program. Just my mom's in there already, my sister's in there, but there's a waiting list for me, I guess. They got a lot of clients, I guess. Just the way the world is right now.
Yeah, no kidding. And that kind of goes back to the whole theme of this podcast, is that I think more guys should open up about this kind of stuff. Just my personal thought. And it's not that you have to be like, breaking down about every little simple thing, but I think talking about it helps. As men, we're told not to express ourselves, not to talk about it, and that's what I did all my life. I kept everything in, and it made my life worse. Um, I'm not saying, divulge all the stuff and that's going to make everything rosy and cheeky, but it's like that the other episode that we did about friends. Like I said, I feel lighter talking to my friends like you guys than some stranger. I just this is for me. I can't talk for everybody. This is my own personal experience. People, you know, handle things differently than I will. But for me, it's just it's a trust thing for me. I trust you guys with my life, so I'm a lot more confident opening up to you guys because I've told you guys some stuff that I've never told anybody else. You know, um, so I think men should be a little bit more open to talking about it and not being ashamed about it. Because I think there is that stigma about depression, and we have to kind of present ourselves as strong pillars, which we can, and we can still be that, but we can also be kind of that other side, that more vulnerable side, but do it in the time and fashion that we feel comfortable doing. We should have to be forced to do it, but because I think people think if you're breaking down and talking about your feelings and stuff, like, you're not as much of a man, which to me, that's bullshit. I think you can still be that strong. Like, we were just watching Dutton Ranch with Rip.
Mm-hmm.
You can be that kind of guy, but you can also be the guy that kind of maybe talks to your friends or talks to somebody that you do trust about what you're going through. The hard times. I hardly ever cry in front of anybody except for my wife, and I just whoever watches this damn video is going to see that I did break down. But and I'm not ashamed of it, really. I'm a little embarrassed because it's not who I am. I don't like being that part of me, but I think if people can do that, I think we as men can be better people. My opinion. What do you guys think?
To certain people, you open up. I wouldn't, you know, people you trust. I think it's okay.
Oh yeah, that's what I was saying. It's like I'm kind of opening. I mean, I'm opening up to everybody who watches this, but at the same time, it's right now I'm talking to my two best friends. My
Right.
my brothers. So it's if this was two strangers that I had never met before, I probably wouldn't be as open.
There is that
I think.
stigma. You're right, though.
Yeah,
That
and being able to talk. That's why I wanted to talk about this episode with you two guys, because if I had been any other guys, I wouldn't be able to talk. I would be very vague about stuff. I definitely wouldn't have broke down. But I kind of went outside my I don't know what you call a comfort zone. Is like, I'm going to talk to them because you're the guys that can allow me to kind of open up, and that's for me. That's important.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Yeah, it's a little harder for me to open up, or I don't know if I don't know if I'm not there, or it's just not who I am. Um, I compartmentalize a lot of stuff, and sometimes I don't want to open them boxes.
No, I don't blame you. It's so. I mean, you guys know my relationship with my mother. Um, ever since she and my dad divorced, it's never been good. It's been rocky, up and down, good times, bad times. But I had a long conversation with my sister about this, and you know, I have a lot of my anger and my depression stems from not only my dad but my mom. You know, my relationship. I've never been able to have a real solid relationship because I think personally I have kind of abandonment issues. Like, my mom and my sister left when I was a teenager and left me for me to take care of my dad. Um, the day, and I still remember, I'm not going to say it, but the day that she left, me and my dad walked out that door, she said something that's tattooed in my brain. And it's stuck with me even to this day. I can hear her voice saying some pretty bad stuff. And I wanted to, and I actually, this was probably 6 months ago. Um, I didn't really have it out with my mom, but I said, I really need to talk to you. I need to kind of express, how I've been feeling over the last 35, 40 years, because a lot of my anger stems from her. It's not her fault. I mean, she went through her own shit and everything, but there's just being a child and seeing your parent do what she's done. It's kind of angered me a lot because,
Yeah, she made some questionable choices.
yeah, I mean, you guys know. But it's
Yeah.
like, I grew up thinking the whole, I mean, this is just me as a kid, in sickness and in health. You take a marriage vows. Well, my dad got sick and she ran, you know, it got too hard for her.
Uh, we all know there's a little more to it than that.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just talking as a kid. As a kid,
Right, right. Yeah.
that's. I mean, I know in sickness and health. I mean, I'm on my second marriage, so obviously that doesn't take with me. But as a kid, it influenced me a lot, and it kind of changed. It kind of directed me in different directions because of things that I believed in that I saw my mom, you know, completely trash. You know, and like I said, we were having discussion, but she didn't want to, like you, Brian. She didn't want to hash over it. She was like, "That's the past. It's gone. It's done. There's nothing you can do about to change it." She kind of compartmentalizes everything, and and for at first I was pretty pissed off, but later on I kind of looked at him like, I understand where she's coming from. She did go through some of her own battles, and she was drinking pretty heavily for a while. This was back in my 20s, and she went through some bad stuff. But there's still a lot of anger toward my mom because there's part of me that I want some answers, but I know I'm never going to get them.
But do you really want the answers, though? I mean,
The
think
funny
about
thing,
it. Think about it. Do you really want that answer? Would it make any difference if you had that answer?
I actually thought about that. As much as I honestly, I don't know if getting the answers would change anything. It probably wouldn't. But there's some kind of part of my brain that's kind of like, I want some type of admission that she fucked up. Even though I know it's not going to change anything. It's just there's a part of my brain that's kind of wired up that's like, and part of it is I'm angry at her because of my life. I kind of blame her. Even though I just I didn't have the strength to make the decisions I should have. And so I have to direct my anger at like somebody, and my mom's kind of the prime target for me
Well, she's
because
an easy target.
yeah, that's true. She is an
She
easy
she
target.
is she's the easy target. But you know, you gotta sometimes you gotta own your own shit though,
Yeah, I
and
know.
you know, as harsh as it sounds, you made your choices, and only you can make those choices. And who gives a fuck what the answers are? The questions aren't even valid anymore. It was so long ago. Who gives a fuck what the question is?
True.
Let it just make that decision to leave it there. Don't unpack that box. Just put a fucking lid on it. Move on.
No, you're right. And like I said, at first I was like that. I was pissed off and I wanted answers and all this other stuff. But like I said, as days went gone, I started thinking about it, and I'm like, I am at that point where I'm not gonna beat that horse anymore because it's not worth it. There's nothing that's gonna change. And so I'm like, I got to find my own way to move on, you know.
Yeah, I've been getting better at just cutting people out of my life. Just well, it's like we don't need each other anymore. I'm not talking about you guys, obviously, but you know, what do
No,
they
I
bring? I try to bring to them. They don't bring. Just it's toxic. So I just cut them off. Whether it's work relationship, whether it's family, just what I'm saying.
yeah,
Yeah, you definitely got some toxicity going on, man. You gotta cut that shit all the way out.
Trying.
yeah, and that's the thing for me that I'm over the last few years, especially, I've actually started realizing certain things about myself that I'm like, because like the anger thing. So I've been pissed off at my mom, but I pretty much kept it to myself. But there would be times where I kind of let it out, and I'd make pretty smart ass remarks to her, like if we're who is it, her second husband. She showed me the engagement ring, and I'm like, God, that's all it is. I thought it'd be bigger, or something. I just make some kind of snide remark, and I did that a lot toward my mom, and because there was that anger part of me that was like pissed off at my mom still, and I wanted to just yell and scream and just cuss at her and stuff like that, but I didn't, because she's still my mom. I still love my mother. She's the only mother I have and ever have. You know, and so like you were saying, Brian, it's I'm not going to open that box. I kind of made peace with, like, you know what, I'm not going to try to pursue that, because I was going to try to pursue it and try to deal with it, but I'm going to go on my own and figure it out for myself and deal with it myself. Because even if she did say something to me, it might not be the answers I'd want. Because honestly, I don't even know what I wanted.
Right, and there's nothing to be gained by rehashing that for a lot of reasons, but because for one, it's answers I promise you don't want, because it will shatter your entire worldview, and you don't want those answers. And for another thing, I guarantee you, she's harboring some pain from that too. She didn't just walk away and be like, whatever, fuck it. I promise you, she's harboring some pain from that too. So why bring it up, and why bring that back to the surface when she's been able to, if she's been able to move on from it to whatever degree. Why bring it back to the surface? It's not healthy for you. It's not for her. For anybody that's involved in that, in that conversation. It doesn't need to be had. She was right. It's done. It's in the past. Let it go. Box it up, put it away, and let it go.
Yeah, I know.
Try to find something within yourself. Now you're at a crossroads. You can either forgive and try to reestablish a something that resembles a healthy relationship with her, or you accept that you have irreconcilable differences and you're not going to see eye to eye on anything, and it's too painful, whatever the case may be, and you've got to walk away.
Yeah, you thinking about it. I think I think I was mad because it seemed like her decision to leave my dad seemed to not affect her, and I never thought about that part of it. I just thought about all the shit that I went through, and the part of me was like, I want you to admit, you know, like I said, I don't even know really what I was trying to get out of her. Because to me, in my mind, even though I know it's not true, but in my mind, my first thought is that she got out scot free. She got to live a life. My sister got to live a life. So I described this. This is how I kind of sum up my life with my dad. Um, I told this to my aunt. I'll try to keep it short, but so if I was going to visualize this is how I do it. Me, my mom, my sister, my dad are standing on kind of a cliffside, right? We're overlooking an ocean, sunset, it's beautiful, everything's great. That's my childhood. Everything's great. When I turn 11, the ground underneath my father falls out. We all catch him. So we're all dangling over, we're holding him, but he's light as a feather. But at that same time, there's this like void, this black goo around his feet. That represents his disease. Now, like I said, at first he's really light as a feather. We're all family. We're all holding on to him. Everything's fine. As the years progress, he gets heavier as that thing crawls up his legs. He's starting to get a little heavier. He's starting to get a little heavier every year. Back when I'm 17, 18, my mom and sister decide to walk away. They go their separate ways, and now I'm left with hanging on to my dad. Now I'm holding him. I'm fine. I'm young. I'm healthy. I'm strong. I can hold on to him. But this thing is starting to crawl up his legs, his knees, his thighs. He's starting to get heavier. And I'm in my 20s. He's still pretty heavy. He gets a little heavier every time. And now that thing's around his waist, and he's starting to get pretty heavy, and I'm starting to struggle. So now I start looking around for help. I'm asking for help. I'm yelling for help. And the two people that I thought I could rely on was my mom and my sister. And then he starts, he tries to take his own life, and that's when I stopped begging God for help, because for a while I was screaming my head off, asking for help from family, from God, from everything. And I was getting nothing. That's why I gave up on that whole religion thing. And then he gets worse. My 30s, this thing is crawling up his chest. He's getting heavier. I can barely hold on to him. Into my 40s, he gets so heavy that I just can't. And the thing has consumed his head. His arm is coming up. And if I don't try to let go of him, it's going to consume me. And that's, when he passes. I mean, it's kind of a weird visualization, but that's kind of how it makes sense in my head, is that, at first everything's fine, but then when things start getting heavy, anything that I could rely on support, my mom and my sister, left. And then I struggled, and that's what created the whole anger thing, the bitterness, the depression, because I felt like I was alone fighting this disease with him, And I was telling my aunt that, and it's hard looking back on it, but that's kind of how I would sum up my life with my dad.
Yeah, and I hear that analogy, and I think it's probably pretty accurate. But the part you're missing is the same visualization from the other two parties that were there.
Yeah.
And we kind of talked in one of the previous episodes about like victim mentality and things like that. And I think it kind of applies here, because while you were young when it first started, when things first started to happen, you didn't know how to deal with it and all that. And, so it progressed, you took it more, you started taking it more personally. The more it started to actually have a tangible effect, you took it more personally. And what you don't know is what went on behind closed doors with your mom.
That's true.
You don't know the things that they discussed. You don't know the things that they fought about. You don't know you don't know the things that happened when you weren't there that contributed to the breakup.
Yeah.
And so it's real easy to make her the target. You see an injustice was committed. It's real easy to target her and make her the bad guy in the situation when you don't know. You don't know what she went through. You don't know that if the decisions and some of the the choices that we find questionable, who knows, her own happiness, whatever, but however questionable we may find her choices, we don't know what contributed to those. Was that her own way of dealing with depression on her own terms? Or, in her own life, was she trying to numb the pain of of the circumstances? Was she dealing with something else, and she chose a different outlet? Doesn't mean she wasn't going through it. But trying to bait her into admitting she was wrong doesn't help. Doesn't help anybody. Doesn't help you. Doesn't help her. Damn sure doesn't help him.
Yeah.
So, at some point you've got to you've got to break that victim mind, that victim programming, because it has perpetuated, and whether you see it in your visualization or not, that black goo, that void that consumed him, that you had to let go of or it would consume you, it's still got a hold of you.
Yeah, I agree.
So you've got to find a way to break that hold. Now I don't know what the answer is, but that's just it's just the way I see it, and I see that it still has a hold, and you're not letting it go. You've got to find something to get it to let go, or it's going to consume you as well.
Yeah, and that's something I just more or less realized lately, is that if it still has a hold on me, it still affects me, it still affects decisions, and there might be that part of me that, it sounds weird, maybe it makes sense, maybe it doesn't, but it's like, and I know my mom went through her own stuff, and I know all the stuff that, I don't know everything, but I know there's some stuff that she went through that it was bad on her end too. But it's weird that I want to hear that I was not the only one that suffered. I mean, it's just, I need to hear it from her, because there's that part of my brain that's like saying, well, she got off scot free.
But she didn't.
No, I know.
She didn't. And like we said before, it's very easy to be a victim.
Oh yeah.
You can create victimhood out of anything.
Oh yeah.
And as long as you're willing to believe it, you'll be a victim forever. Getting someone to admit that they suck too it's not going to make that victimhood go away.
No, you're right.
So you've got to break that hold. You got to break that cycle, or it's going to perpetuate. It's going to consume you and everyone around you.
Yep.
And that's just, yeah, and that's true across all of civilization. That's not even, it's not even necessarily you that I'm directing this at. It's everything. Like I said, when we had that whole conversation, a couple episodes ago about being a victim, it's real easy to be the victim of, oh well, systemic whatever, systemic poverty, systemic racism. Everything is the president's fault, or this, the billionaire's fault, or whatever. It's real easy to sit back and say, this is my life sucks because it's somebody else's fault. I had nothing to do with it. It's somebody else's fault that my life sucks.
Yeah.
And you can ride that wave for eternity. Or you can make the conscious decision to not ride it anymore.
Yeah, and that's the decision I made. That's one of the reasons why I'm starting to accept things and admit things and kind of confront things and go, hey, you know what? I know the things I need to change. Because before I was just kind of riding a wave, going whatever happens, happens, and now I'm actually finally starting to go. I'm sick of living like this. I'm sick of being pissed off and angry because it's not going to end well. And what do I got to show for it? I ain't got nothing to show for it. I'm finally in a good place. I own a home. I got a decent job. I got good things going. I got dreams finally.
Yeah.
I got things that I'm trying to chase. And what's that, Ben? Can you hear me, Ben? Did we lose Ben?
I think so, because he popped out and then he came back in and oh, there he is.
But yeah, you're right, Brian. I have played that victim role, and I was like, I'm the best at blaming myself and playing the pity party and doing this and doing that, but it's no way to live. And I'm finally just
No,
starting to
it's not. It sucks.
It sucks. It sucks because I've been like that for fucking 40 years. And I'm like, if I'm ever gonna find some kind of peace, because I think ultimately that's what I'm trying to look for, some kind of peace and happiness, is I gotta find a way to get over this hump. I know, and I'm finally starting to like recognize certain things and know certain things, and I'm starting to finally go, you know, I'm not gonna the things that I was sinking my teeth into and wanted answers for. It's just, even if I did get them, it's not going to give me the peace that I need, because I need to find that for myself. I need to find that. The hardest thing is to forgive yourself. I can forgive my mom, whoever, but I think forgiving myself is going to be the hardest thing for me. That's just my personal thought. Um, I think a lot of people go through that, but I'm finally waking up and starting to realize the things that I do need to change. And if I'm going to change them, then I got to find it in me to get over that hump.
You're right. Forgiving yourself is the hardest. I struggle with it. The things that I carry around, I struggle to forgive myself for, and I've recently had to make some decisions, and kind of taking a little bit of an inventory of my life and my situation, and realize that, just like the same things I'm telling you, is I got to make that decision to change the things that I can, and so I'm taking steps to do so.
Yeah, and that's because I've never felt good about myself, and I want to feel good about who I am as a person. because like I said, I've always had low self-worth, low self-esteem. I've never cared about myself, but I don't want to be that anymore. I want to feel good about who I am. I want to feel good as a friend, as a son, as a husband, as a nephew, as a dog dad. I want to feel good about who I am as a person. And I know the only way I'm going to be able to do that is to deal with these things that I need to deal with and be able to let go of a lot of things. I think that's the only way I'm going to feel better about who I am as a person. I mean, I know logically I am a good person. I'm not out hurting people and doing stupid stuff. I'll hurt myself before I'll hurt anybody else. But I also got to get out of that mindset of hurting myself, because I'd rather hurt myself than other people. But I just need to figure out how to not even hurt myself, and then I'll be good.
Yeah, that's the challenge.
Yeah, and that's it's something I'm really like I said, realizing and doing stuff like this. I mean, like I said, even if it feels like I'm a little lighter, even 1%, I'm still going in the right direction. And I'm starting to recognize this stuff more and more every day. I'm realizing things that I never thought of before, and it's a good feeling, because like I said, I'm 52. I don't know how long I'll be around. I may be around for 30 years. I don't know. I might be around for 3. But before I go, I want to have some kind of peace. I want to have some kind of happiness, I guess, in a sense.
Yeah, that's yeah, kind of the goal.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
It's not easy. No. Like I said, I fight with it every day. It's like it goes to the depression's part of it, but like the stress and anger is another part. Anger. I've gotten a lot better in my anger. Um, and I've just noticed that over the last, I'd say, 10 years. And the really funny thing is I used, and I think that's what a lot of people you see, like online or in person, even. I think a lot of people they struggle with anger themselves, because I can see why they do the things that they do, because of I do the same things. Perfect example, like when the first Trump administration, the 2016, I would get into these chat rooms and I would start just yelling high heel to everything. I wanted to start fights. I wanted to get in arguments. It was kind of like my thing to do. And then 2020, I wasn't doing it so much. And then just this last thing, I was like, I don't even care anymore. I got out of all the political groups. I got out. I don't even want to talk about that shit anymore, because there was that part of that was that anger in me that was like, you know what? I'm going to get into this with them. Maybe it'll help me a little bit, but it made me worse. It just kind of fueled that anger side of me, and I'm finally starting to let go of all that anger. I think that's one of the reasons why in the last few years I've started to go in a better direction, because I'm not going to sit there and start a fight online with some dipshit I don't know. What's the point?
Well, you're
I
damn sure
mean,
not going to change their mind. They're going to fight with
no,
you because they're miserable too. So you're not going to change their mind. They're not going to go, oh wow, this guy's got a great compelling argument. I believe it's not
yeah,
going to
and
fucking
that,
happen.
yeah, exactly, and I think that's why people do it. I think they're just pissed off and they're directing it at somebody, and yeah, because you're not going to treat. I don't think people go in there thinking they're going to change somebody's mind. I think they're just in there to just stir it up with people, and I've been that way for a long time, and it's gotten old, and I'm sick of it. Honestly, I'm sick of being pissed off all the time. It's just not worth it. Maybe it's because I'm getting older, and I'm just like, what? It drains me too much to be angry all the time, because it's not healthy in any way. Now, if you use it to go out and lift weights, or use that to do something a little more productive, that's one thing. But to do it in more of a toxic way, just because that starts affecting everything. It affects your job, it affects your health, it affects your marriage, it affects relationships with friends and family. And that's one of the things that I'm definitely dealing with on my own, and I'm actually starting to make steps to make a better choice, because there's a lot of times where I see somebody say something and I start to type out something. I'm like, you know what? That's fucking pointless. So I just delete it and move on. And it's getting a lot easier the more you do it.
Yeah, especially when you're dealing with a lot of that, all the whatever the online stuff, the various chat rooms, discussion boards,
Yeah.
social media, whatever. It's you're not gonna affect the outcome of anybody with that.
No.
You're not gonna. Nobody with an opposing viewpoint is gonna go, oh shit, this guy's right.
Yeah.
It's not gonna fucking happen. All it
No.
is just it's just gonna piss you off, and it just drags you down into that toxic pit, and you never recover from it. It's not worth it.
Yeah, and that's I see that. I guess being online, you see it a lot more prevalent. I guess you see it a lot more around, and
Well, depending on where, I guess, where you look, the the internet contains pretty much the sum of all human knowledge.
yeah, that's true.
And so you can find anything you're looking for and anything you probably didn't even know you could look for. But the way everything is set up, if you look for if you look for discourse, that's all you will find.
That's true.
It's everywhere, and that's all you will find. So don't look for discourse. Look for other stuff that is more productive.
Yeah. No, I
I mean,
agree.
I fell into that same trap. I spent way too much of my free time on various social media platforms, reading through all the posts and reading how anybody that doesn't think like me is a Nazi, and all Nazis must die, and whatever, you know the rhetoric.
Yeah.
um I fell into that trap. I i exercised enough restraint to not to get too combative and to get wrapped up in it, but I was just from a spectator point of view on a lot of it. It was draining me for nothing.
Yeah.
It
Exactly.
was I was getting angry, like, how are these people this fucking ignorant? And I just, yeah, I had to close down a lot of my outlets there, because it was too much. And so now I've kind of tuned my algorithm a little bit to where I get more of the information that I want to see, and less of the stuff that is just there to piss me off. Ben just texted me he can't get back on. He's done.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was like, he kept popping on and off. I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
bad connection or
Um,
something.
something. But yeah, yeah, that shit's just toxic, and there's no reason for it, and you're not going to change somebody's mind. So what's the expression? Don't never argue with a fool, because they'll just bring you to their level and beat you with experience.
Yeah, it's true. He's trying to come back on. Did you get back, Ben?
I, my connection's really bad here.
No. Yeah, that's why I
Uh,
went out and bought it. I went out and bought an
Yeah,
Ethernet.
I can't. It's breaking up. I'm sorry.
No, you're good, man.
all right. Well, I mean, we're at like 2 hours and 10 minutes. So why don't we wrap this up then? And
Yeah, we'll wrap it up for now. We can always come back at a later date, but
yeah.
nope, it's good, man. I'm glad you guys are here talking. It means the world to me.
hopefully, hopefully somebody gets something out of it. And think about what I said. Maybe you get something out of it too.
I think I do. Like I said, talking to you guys, it helps bring out things in me that I usually don't talk about. And I'm trying to move in the right direction. I think I'm going that way. So, I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. I wouldn't be able to go in the direction I'm going without you guys. Honestly, that's just my thought.
And we're always here, even if you just need something. You got our numbers.
Oh yeah, I know. Well, I just texted you the other day about something more personal that. So
Yeah. So if you ever want to dig into that a little bit, you know where to find me.
oh yeah, I'm sure we will. But I'll have to call Ben.
Yeah, he's texting me. He said he keeps getting he
Bumped
he can
off.
get on, but then he's breaking up. So
Yeah. All right, brother. Well, I appreciate it.
yeah.